live here at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Isaac Ezban, director of Parvulos, which is right on his shirt there, Children of the Apocalypse, out now from Raven Banner. It's cool to have you on here. I was going to say back, we actually did this one other time, and it was lost.
Yeah, you wonder how things like that happen nowadays with technology and everything. How can something be lost, right? But apparently it still happens. But everything happens for a reason. I remember you interviewed me at Fantastic Fest when we had our US premiere of Parvulos, and now we had our theatrical release in April. Now today we're celebrating the digital release because the film is now out on digital platforms all across the US, iTunes, Amazon, and Google, and you name it. So looks like we were destined to talk again.
So I'm glad it's worked out.
And maybe you had an extra 7 months to think your questions again.
I did. I rewatched the movie for the interview. I'd watched it before, and I really liked it. And I think I liked it. I still liked it, but I think I liked it even more because, with like anything, you watch it again and you see different things than you do the first time you're watching it.
Well, the great movies, you watch it a second time, a third time, and you discover more things and you like it more. The not so good movies, you watch it again and you are like, oh, I think I like it better before. So I think you're giving a good compliment to my movie, so I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people not aware yet, can you give them an idea of what Parvulos is about?
Okay, so for people that are not aware, Parvulos is basically a dystopian coming-of-age horror movie about 3 kids living in a cabin in the middle of the woods who are hiding a secret in their basement. We're not sure exactly what they're hiding there, but we see how every night before bedtime, they hear roars coming from the basement and they have to go and feed something that is living there. And eventually we start thinking it might be a monster. It might be something that roars at night and that only the 2 older brothers are allowed to go and feed. And the little brother is always, drawing all these monsters, imagining these monsters hiding there. But eventually he steals the keys and he discovers that what's on the basement is not a monster. Spoiler alert, it's the parents. It's the parents of these kids because they are locked in the basement in cages and they are in chains because they have been infected. They have been infected with a kind of zombie rabies disease. So that's when you discover this whole story is taking place in a kind of dystopia, post-apocalyptic world where all humankind have been infected by this virus. But before you say, oh, wait, another zombie movie? This is not another zombie movie. I know there's been a million of them. I'm a huge fan, but if you've seen my work, I'm all about making original stuff. And so what I wanted to do was, I didn't want to create yet another one of those zombie movies about zombies invading the cities and the streets, and all that has been done a million times much better with The Walking Dead, The Last of Us. I was just revisiting 28 days later and 28 weeks later to get ready for tomorrow as well. And they've been doing that so many times. What I wanted to do was to use the zombie trope or the zombie kind of story to talk about a family, about a more intimate coming-of-age story about a family that works upside down, a family where the kids have to educate the parents, as a metaphor to how a family really works in real life, where parents educate the children and it's the other way around. So Parvulos becomes then more of an intimate kind of coming-of-age horror drama about a family that works upside down with kids educating their parents. That's kind of like a brief description of what the movie's about.
Yeah. Now, I've seen you mention that's your favorite movie you've ever made. And why is that?
Well, this is my 5th movie, and I'm probably the worst one at saying that because I'm not very objective when in regards to my movies. So I couldn't say I'm the most objective to say such a big claim, but it would be more for the audience to say. But what I feel is, so my first 2 movies, The Incident and The Similars, they were ideas that I crafted on my own. Very not so much horror; they were more into sci-fi. The Incident, they were very much influenced by the Twilight Zone. The Incident is the story of two brothers and a detective locked on an infinite staircase, and a family locked on an infinite highway for 35 years. And the Similars is this idea of 8 people stranded on a bus station that they all only start becoming similar to one of them. With these two movies, in the case of The Incident, I'm a huge fan of the idea. I love the idea, the creativity behind it. But in terms of the production values of the film, it was done in a very limited budget. It was done with very little money and a lot of sweat of people who really believed in me and my story. And also, it was my first film. And when you make a first feature film, it's almost like you're going to do your master's on filmmaking, but you're basically using this film to learn. So it's a film that I very much love the idea, but I'm also very critical about the way it was shot and made. And in the case of The Similars, that's a film where I feel I have a little more budget and and I was still in full control of a crazy idea out of my mind. And then my third and my fourth movie, which are Parallel, the movie I did in Canada and the US with Burn Studios, and then Evil Eye, which I did with Cinepolis, which is my first venture into horror. Both those movies, I had more budget and obviously more skills, and I was more mature as a director and more toys, we could say. But also they weren't totally ideas of my own. And they were two films where I didn't have full control. And then I did Parvulos, which is my fifth movie, but it's again me having full control to make an idea I really want to make with, again, a little more budget and more toys, but also more importantly, more experience and I would say more maturity as a filmmaker. And I mean, I still consider myself a filmmaker who is learning every day and learning better skills and getting more experience. But I would say Parvulos has the average of an idea that's coming from me that I'm deeply passionate about, that I feel is very personal, and the craft behind it that I feel proudest of than in my other movies. So that's why it's personally a film I feel the proudest of. It's a film that I work a lot and I put all my heart into it. And it's a very personal film for many reasons. First of all, I come from a family of 3 brothers. Many have asked if this is like autobiographical, and I'm like, well, it's not like I had zombie parents as a child.
Well, that's good. That's good.
But I would say that I come from a very tight family and I have a very strong, close relationship with my brother. So in that terms, it's personal. Also, the coming of age aspect of the movie is personal for me. I'm a huge fan of coming of age stories, and that's why I love Stephen King and Guillermo del Toro and Steven Spielberg.
I agree. Yeah.
For me, 3 of the great genre coming of age creators of our times. And I really, really wanted to make my epiphany of the coming of age subgenre with my last 2 movies, which are Evil Eye and Parvulos. Evil Eye is a very feminine coming of age, and Parvulos is a very masculine coming of age. It's almost like the movie I made for my daughter and the movie I made for my kid. So therefore, it's in a way, these 2 movies complement my full vision of the coming of age process of life. Something that I don't know, my coming of age, that time in my personal life really stayed with me, and I feel with everyone, right? It's a moment you really recall when you discover adulthood, when you discover the real world, and I feel it goes very well with the genre, because coming of age is about discovering another world, and the fantastic horror genre is about discovering another world too. So that's another reason why this film is personal. And last but not least, it's a film I had in development since 2016, and it took a lot to get it made. So during that process, the film changed a lot. The script changed a lot. A pandemic happened. 2 other movies happened. I became a father, so 2 kids happened. And what I thought the movie was about also changed. I felt it was a coming of age story, and then I discovered this is more a story about a family. This is a story about a different family, and a story about fighting to keep your family together and to save your family, something I can personally relate to as well. So for all these reasons, it's a movie I keep very close to my heart. And I also like that as a storyteller, as a creator, I don't want to deliver just one genre. I don't want to deliver just a horror movie. I like to come in open my coat and deliver a full ride that has drama, coming of age, some funny elements, some bizarre B-movie elements as well, and of course horror. So for all those reasons is that I feel it's the movie I feel the proudest of. But again, I'm the least objective to make that claim.
Right.
What the audience think tonight when they watch it at home. Yeah.
Gregory Lamerson is here, ducking out of my webinar to say hi to both of you and jumping right back to other deal. You look tired, Isaac.
I look tired. Thank you, Greg. You look well.
That's what happens when you're talking to me. You get very
well. You know, that's it's Wednesday, man. It's opening night in digital platforms, and yeah, it's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy month. It's been a crazy year, man. What can I say? Yeah.
See, he's talking about coming of age, which, you know, that is still a big part of the movie, and it's interesting how one deals with that in a post-apocalyptic world. Like, there's still kids at one point, especially the nice montage of them, all his brothers having as good a time as they can in the world they're in. And then how do you deal with the first time you have sex in this kind of world, your first heartbreak, and then in other ways, how do you become a man in this world? You have to do things that a normal person wouldn't do in the world we're in right now.
Yes, totally. You know, it's I mean, growing up, having your coming of age phase, it's already hard in any kind of setting, right? In any kind of scenario, in any kind of situation. Now imagine having to live through that process in a world that's going to shit, where you have to take care of your parents, where nobody is helping you, where you are on your own. So that's why I really like all those movies that put children or young teenagers in moments and in adventures and in dangers that would be hard even for adults. You know, films like The Others, films like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, films like the two great masterpieces by Guillermo del Toro, The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth, and like the film that mainly inspired Parvulos, which is a Good Night Mommy, you know. And I love how these movies always, for some reason, I can really empathize and really connect with these characters, that you feel these moments are dangerous even for adults. And then you have also kids facing them, you know, kids having to kill someone, kids having to feed their parents, kids having to educate their parents. So I just want to build a story that would be full of all those aspects.
Yeah. And you mentioned, the pandemic comes about. So had you written this before the pandemic?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people ask, a lot of people feel that this is a movie I came up with during the pandemic. But you know what's curious about it? I originally started writing the script in 2016, so way before the pandemic.
Yeah, years before.
No idea the pandemic would happen. Nobody had. And I also had no idea what my life would be right now. And originally, this was supposed to be my third movie, just after The Incident and The Similars. And then I was going to do a Parallel and Evil Eye. But, a director's career is never planned. You have all these projects lined up, and they happen in the order that they want to happen, right? And this movie was supposed to happen in 2016 with a very limited budget. It was going to be part of a slate of movies that were being done in Mexico for a digital platform. I'm glad it didn't happen then. Everything happens for a reason. And then this movie was going to happen in 2018 again. I had 3 times I already opened up casting and looked at kids and all that. And it's really hard because when you cast children and then the movie doesn't happen, you cannot use these actors again because they grow, right? Then in 2020, this movie was definitely going to happen. That year I was going to make 2 movies, Evil Eye and Parvulos, and then both movies fell apart due to, 2020 had its own plans, of course. So when I was in lockdown with my family, nowadays I kind of miss those days because at the time I was super stressed and worried. Oh, the world is going to shit. The film industry is going to shit. I'm never going to make a movie again. In those times, I just said to myself, if the world is really coming to an end and I'm making my movie about the end of the world, I might as well just put the pandemic into the movie. So that's where I decided to put all this story about the vaccine gone wrong and all that as the cause for the infected. we're not even talking about the vaccine for the COVID. We're talking about other pandemics that developed later, but it's still, based upon that. And then later on in 2021, 2022, a lot of people advised me against that. And they told me, Isaac, take that out of the script because it's pointless. Nobody wants to see pandemic references. The pandemic was kind of skipped in the world of fiction. You never see TV series or movies where people have like
right, where they're wearing masks and social distancing and stuff. Yeah,
because nobody wants to see that. And I almost took that out of the script, but I decided to leave it because what I kept saying is the movie's not about that. The movie's not around the pandemic. This is just like a small hint that I'm making to put some context in our real world. And I'm glad I left it because when the movie came out last year and this year, that's what everyone talks about. That the distributor made a whole trailer around the pandemic. All the reviews mentioned the pandemic. When the movie premiered at Fantasia last year, all the reviews said like pandemic thriller with a bite. And then all the reporters ask about the pandemic. And so I'm glad I left it because it's kind of like a hook where people can connect to because it's what we can relate to, right? Yeah.
Just like coming of age is something people can relate to no matter what part of the world they're from. Everyone lived through the pandemic too.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone lived through a pandemic, and that's why it's something everyone can connect to. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, along those lines, though, has there been any negative feedback to that, like that people would see that it is like a political statement, anti-vaccine?
Yeah, some reviews have mentioned that as well. I mean, some press reviews and some people in Rotten Tomatoes, and also some reviews from the audience in platforms like IMDb, Letterboxd. Some people have mentioned it's a movie about like an anti-vaxxer movie. And I'm surprised they give that read because, all I wanted to do was put some context in the movie and kind of connect it to the real world. This was never meant to put any political statement or be against the vaccines or anything like that. But still, I mean, if, some people just really like to hate everything, right? Wouldn't you agree?
100% on the internet, yeah.
And we find a lot of them on the internet and a lot of them on the horror genre. So they see something, and instead of finding how to like it, they try to find how to discredit it. And Parvulos has 100 reasons why you could not like it, right? You could say, "Oh, but I wasn't expecting what happens here," or "This is too crazy," or "This is too long," and so yeah, some people pick up on the pandemic aspect. I mean, it gives it makes the movie more polemic, so I think that makes it more interesting. So yeah, I mean, as a director, my work is to put the movie out there and people can interpret it whichever way they want it.
So do you you mentioned zombie, and then you also said infected. Do you consider your movie a zombie movie?
Well, I mean, I mentioned zombie and infected as kind of like a synonym. I mean, I know the difference. Of course, zombies are usually
like undead, almost a supernatural element.
And they're living dead, like George A. Romero, and movies like 28 Days Later and stuff are more infected. I think definitely if we want to be very accurate with the language, they would be infected because you don't have to die to become an infected in my movie. It's more like, but I guess the word zombie, and maybe I'm misusing it, but has become kind of like a generalization for films about this, for films about infected that bite that bite other people and can spread the disease. So that's why maybe I call it zombie, but I know it's mistaken. They're properly called infected.
I think before Romero, zombies were just, like Haitian zombies, like voodoo and stuff. It would be people that they weren't undead, but they didn't have control over their own being. And then after Romero, zombie Romero really reinvented what people think as zombie, and it was always undead. And now I think people are starting to use the term a little more widely. But before Romero, I think just anybody that didn't necessarily have their own control over their being was a zombie. You could be like a zombie if you took a lot of drugs and you no longer had control over your own being.
Yeah, you're right. Romero definitely was a game changer in that. Yeah.
So I've also never seen a zombie movie where they go to the bathroom I don't think that's ever been done.
Well, you know what? I mean, I was saying how I'm a big fan of making original things. I mean, of
Yeah, yeah.
course, nobody is discovering something that hasn't been done before. Everything is based upon references, and also in all my movies, although I claim they are original, they are of course based on things that have been done before. But
Well,
I said,
yeah, I was just saying. I think everybody, any storyteller has inspirations.
yes, of course, of course. But when I was making a zombie movie, I just said to myself, look, if I'm gonna make a zombie movie, I'm going to put stuff that we've never seen zombies doing before. So in Parvulos, you'll find stuff like zombies celebrating Christmas,
Yeah.
zombies getting laid, zombies being read a story at bedtime, zombies being bathed by their kids. And I don't want to give away too much, but I want people to watch it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to put a lot of to put my grain of sand to the zombie subgenre. Yeah.
Now the movies. There is comedy in the movie, but it's played pretty like there's like a feel of dread throughout the movie. But when you're filming some of the stuff with the zombies, like them having sex or like the birthday, what's like the vibe on set? Is it are people like laughing or?
Well, on the set, as you know, nobody can be laughing and stuff like that because
Well,
it's.
yeah, I don't want to mean they're ruining the.
But I guess your question is what is the reaction to people when they see that, because some of those scenes were very delicate. When we were shooting, for example, the scene of the zombies getting laid in the basement. Not a lot of people could be there. That was like a hot set. Not even the actors were there because the little kid couldn't see that. So we only had like the old kid to kind of do the over shoulder shot of him looking at that. So I guess the vibe was not a lot to be laughed about. But what I will say is, yes, a lot of people have praised and a lot of people have criticized those comedic aspects of the movie. I know people who because this is definitely a movie that becomes another movie that then becomes another movie. So a lot of people tell me the best thing about the movie is the first half an hour, and then I feel like the tone goes someplace else, and I don't like that. And some people say otherwise, say, "Oh, the beginning was boring, and then it becomes amazing." And I guess with a movie that has so many movies inside of it, that's a common thing that some people like better this half or this other half. What I will say is this: I never intended to make a comedy. But I know it's funny. But what I wanted to do is something I play with in almost all my movies, especially the first two, in the Incident and Similars, and then in this one, which is what I like, what I call, just the flirtiness with the bizarre, with bizarre elements, with B movie elements. I really, really grew up on watching B movies, and I love that stuff. And that's things you don't usually see in a mainstream commercial movie. And I always like grabbing these stories, these concepts that can be, sellable or commercial, and just introducing these kind of bizarre elements, these strange elements in the plot. And what happens when you play with the bizarre is it's a fine line. It can become creepy or it can become funny, depending on the sensibility and the taste and the experience of the viewer. So some people can see the kids taking the parents on a walk in the woods and be like, "Whoa, that's strange." And some people can be laughing out loud big time. And so that's what people mean by comedy. For me, it's what I call the bizarro elements in the movie. And of course, I know they are funny, but also it's meant to be funny because I like how this movie plays kind of like a roller coaster, where the movie begins in a more serious way. Then suddenly, once the parents are revealed, the tone goes a little lighter and funny, like you say. But then you don't expect the movie is going to be so bleak, so harrowing.
Yeah, it's definitely
And
good.
it
Definitely very good.
surprises
Yeah.
you, how it grabs you literally from the heart, right? So that's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah, like life though. I mean, life isn't all one thing either. It's not all bleakness or comedy, and people, laugh at
Life is
different
like
things.
that, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how about casting we'll get to first, casting the three brothers, since, you talk about it being very personal to you, casting those three kids, because they're the, main characters in the movie. So they have to be good for the movie to really work.
Yes. Casting was a big challenge in this movie. I used to have a professor that used to say that casting is 50%. I feel like when you're working with kids, casting is almost like 80%. Like it's so important to have the right cast. As I said, 3 times before I opened up the casting process, because I felt the movie was going to get made in 2016, 2018, 2018. I could never use any of those actors, but I kind of I kind of had already an idea of what I'm looking for. And then in 2023, when I started finally started making the casting, we looked at over 150 kids. We looked at a lot of online auditions, videos, because that's how a lot of actors do casting these days after the pandemic. And it was fairly easy to find the actor who plays Benjamin, the younger brother, Mateo. He's such a fantastic young kid, very talented, very disciplined, and he was my first choice. When I saw him, I was like, it needs to be him. He said, yes, perfect. Then it was kind of easy to find Oliver, also the guy who plays the brother in the middle. But it was really, really hard to find Salvador, the older brother. The reason for that is that, this character, the way I had envisioned it in the script, I didn't want it to look like it's 2 kids and a teenager. I wanted them to really feel like 3 kids. Like they should be like, the older should be 12, 13, then the one in the middle like 10, 11, and then the youngest one should be like 6, 7, right? And now you see the movie and you see 2 kids and 1 teenager. What happened is that because this role, the older brother, he has a lot of strength. He's almost like the father figure that they don't have. He's almost like a military general. He's always yelling and putting punishments, and it's like the strong hand in the house. So when you saw kids that are 11, 12 doing that, it just looked fake. It looked like they were playing, like they were like, faking a voice, and that didn't work at all. So I was looking at kids months and months and months until my casting director, Rocio Belmont, who is my 3rd movie with her, she's really good, and she said, you know what, Isaac, I feel like we need to look at older kids for that. And I didn't want an older kid precisely because of the reason of when he has the sex scene with Valeria, the girl, because I really wanted that scene to be like a much older woman finding this kid who's in his early teens, and he's like the only thing she can find to get laid, and it was going to play out completely different, a little more sick and more strange. But I really couldn't find the kid that would be 11, 12 that could be able to play the rest of the movie in a believable way. So then we started looking at older kids. I saw Felix, who is a fantastic actor. He's very physical. He plays football. And after I shot the movie and I know what he has to do, working with the crutches and doing all, I could never do even 1% of all that. I mean, that's why I am director, because I can never do what I ask my actors to do, right? Uh-huh. So when we found Felix, I decided to, sometimes as a director, you need to make choices and give in and forget some of the things you were fixated upon. So I decided to lose that idea I had of the very young kid with the old woman she's still much older than him. Carla Adele, who plays Valeria, she's 25. Felix is 18. Somebody told me you can tell the age of somebody by looking at their eyes. But still, because he's so tall, they almost look like the same age. They don't look so far apart. But still, the scene kind of works. It works.
Yeah.
And it's cool. So I decided to leave that scene as it is, and instead just use an actor that works better for the rest of the movie. And then we had a great child acting coach, Ana Carrillo, who also worked on Evil Eye, my previous movie. Because, as a director, you need to focus on everything, right? You need to focus on the camera and the framing and all the actors. So it's great to have somebody who focuses only on the kids, on making sure they know their lines, they read the scene before today, they know what we're doing. So this acting coach really worked hard with them, and she helped me to get them to the emotional state they needed to perform the scenes, but also to get them out whenever we all cut. So she would be always with them, and we would say, okay, camera rolling, sound rolling. And then, because she's also an actress, she would sit with the kids, all the crew are waiting, rolling, and she would be like, she would start crying, and she would say, look at what's happening in the world, look at what's happening to your parents, and she would get the kids like emotionally ready. And then she would say, okay, they're ready. Because, when you're working with kids, it's a lot about the moment. It's a lot about directing them in the moment, because that's how they build their emotions. And also something we did is that we never yell cut. When we want another take, we just say, okay, let's do it again from the beginning, but say this line different, because the moment when you yell cut, they release the emotion and they let it go, and you have to build it up again. So that's unfortunate for my producers and for my editor, because we had these super long clips of like 10 times the scene, of like 10-minute clips, and we spend a lot in hard drives. But thankfully we're shooting digital now, and that's how you achieve these performances. You know, a scene like the moment when they are voting about going to kill somebody or not, they did that scene like 6-7 times, and we never yelled cut. And every time they do it in a more intense way. And when I feel they are worn out, that's when I say, okay, we got it. So that's a bit of how we work with the kids, and they were wonderful. I know they carry the entire film. Somebody
100%. Yeah,
you made a 2-hour movie carried by 3 kids, and you know, they're zombies and Valeria, but they're more like in supporting roles. So I think that was part of the success of the movie, having those kids, definitely.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the did you write the oldest kid to have, you know, one leg, or was that just like he was a good actor and you made the character that way?
Well, you know what? When you want to work with me on a movie, you have to make sacrifices. I wrote the role.
He's a real method actor, yeah.
I wrote that, and then he wanted to be on the movie. And you know, some actors have to cut their hair. Some actors, I told him you have to chop the leg, and he did it. No, I'm joking. No, he has 2 legs. You know, that's VFX.
He did. I honestly thought he was that. Well, you know what? It looks great. I honestly, and
it's well done. You know, that was done by our VFX team in Guadalajara, Jalisco. We did all the post production there, and that's all VFX, man. If you look at the dailies, Felix is just wearing a blue sock the whole time. So yes,
wow.
I did.
Well,
and
great job.
I guess what sold it for you is a prosthetic, right? Because it's not only he has the leg, but also in the bedtime scene, you see the prosthetic, the leg, and it looks pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, so a friend of mine who I've done movies with, AJ Cutler out there, is also the new co-host on the show. He actually has one leg with the prosthetic, and so I really thought it looks very real, is what I'll say.
Well, that's a big compliment, because then you know how it looks for real, because you have a friend, and you know, the VFX guys are gonna be happy about that. But you know what? In my very original draft, he was in a wheelchair. He had 2 legs, but he was in a wheelchair. Growing up, I was always I was not much of a physical type. I was and a lot of people have asked if there's a lot of me and my brothers in this, and I said no. But I do like the fact that he would be like the mastermind, but he cannot walk, and his 2 younger brothers will be carrying him around the whole time. Now I'm fucking glad we didn't use a wheelchair, because you know, shooting in the woods in La Marquesa, we can barely do it with the crutches, with him, you know, taking the thing they take all the stuff with when they go out and all that. And if we would be in a wheelchair, we would die there. We would still be there with a wheelchair. But you know what actually talked me out of that was Ricardo Aguado Fontanes, my co-writer. He's one of the best writers in Mexico. I think one of the voices I respect the more in terms of his writing style, and he's the one that told me, Isaac, let's make him have 1 leg. And I told him no, he needs to be in a wheelchair. And we talked about it for days. And the only way I can be talked into something or talked out of something is if somebody sells me a better idea. And he says, Isaac, at the end of the movie, when the psychopaths, this religious cult, enter the house, he's going to have just 1 leg. And then they're going to attack and basically inhabilitate his only healthy leg. And I was like, fuck, that's bleak. Okay, let's make him have 1 leg. And that's how he convinced me of that.
Let's see. I just want to say, Parker Peter says hello from Spain.
Hello, Parker.
And we did Greg's. There was a question I want to grab. Oh, Todd Quality Jaeger. Your previous films are convoluted in a good way and complicated. How is Isaac able to keep the continuity in place?
Well, I mean, thank you for that. Convoluted in a good way. I take that in a good way.
I'm glad you added that part. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I always like stories, whether they are in science fiction or in horror, and I always like when a story doesn't go straight from point A to point B, but presents the story in a more interesting, in a more in a way that people have to think a little more, in a way that you don't have. A lot of people have seen Parvulos and told me throughout the whole movie, I had no idea what was going to happen. A movie that plays with your expectations, not only in terms of story, but also in terms of tone and genre. None of my movies are just one genre. I mean, I do science fiction, but that science fiction sometimes has comedic touches or dramatic touches. In the case of Parvulos, we also have horror and coming of age and all that. But in terms of keeping with continuity, do you mean like while shooting the movie? Because I mean, we have a lot of people working on that to make that work in terms of like the wardrobe and the costumes and the makeup and all that. A lot of people help us achieve that. But if you mean like in terms of like the story, a movie like Parvulos, the mythology is not that complex or that hard. We're talking about dystopian world where people are infected. There's a cure. So, but in other movies like Parallel or like The Similars, like The Incident, yes, we have more of a convoluted mythology, and it's been hard to make sure that the audience understands exactly what's going on, while at the same time not feeling that they're being like spoon-fed the whole explanation, right? So finding that balance is always very hard, but I feel like every movie I learn to make it better.
We talked a lot about the kids, deservingly so, but casting the two parent zombies, because it's also, they don't have lines and stuff. It's a physical role. Like they're, at some point they're running around on all fours. And what was it like, to find two people that fit that? And I assume they also have to be pretty slender, so you can put, the makeup on them and they still look, still look cool.
Yeah, that was a big challenge, when casting I always say casting is very important for the result of the movie, and it's always very important to know what's the purpose of, like, what's the most important thing or the priority for each casting or for each member of the casting that you're. For example, of course they should all be great actors, that's like a given. But in a movie like The Incident, for example, where we have people locked in an infinite staircase and an infinite highway for 35 years, the characters are played by different actors when they're young and after 35 years. For the young actors, I knew the priority was to find super great actors because they have to play some very intense moments. But from when they are older, the priority was to find characters. I mean, of course, they need to be actors, but actors that have a strange physicality that can look like they've been locked in this place for 35 years. And in the case of Parvulos, it was kind of like the same. For the roles of the parents, of course, I needed great actors, but I also was looking for other characteristics. Like, for example, they need to be very physical because they need to like work on four and be like this. But they also needed to be very skinny, because me and Roberto Ortiz, who is the makeup artist who I've done 2 movies with, and he's great, we spoke a lot about how we didn't want to make infected that would look like monsters from another world or do any CGI on them. We wanted them to feel like humans who have a disease. So we based those characters in real diseases like bulimia, anorexia, or like patients who have cancer. And based upon that, we decided that we wanted actors that would be very skinny. I mean, they still had to go through a makeup process of 3 to 4 hours every day, and almost 3 to 4 hours to put the makeup out as well. But we got actors that were very skinny. The mom needed to be with a very short hair, so she wouldn't mind shaving her head off, because we didn't want to put that makeup of like the bald cap in her head, which would make everything even more tricky. And I was very lucky to find Norma and Horacio. Norma is actually a model, and she's a teacher of acting movement in Casa Azul, a great acting school in Mexico City. So she's very good at her body. She has a lot of control over her body. And I saw from the very first rehearsals that she wasn't an infected or a zombie. She was a creature, like a really reptilian creature, the way she moved and all that. And then Horacio, who plays the father, he was always more like a classic, George A. Romero zombie. And instead of making him be like the mother or making the mother be like him, I decided to play that contrast because, men and women are completely different in the real world. So why wouldn't they be different if they are infected? So I decided to play the contrast of, okay, the father has this style and the mother has this style. And I think the contrast worked really great. Those actors had to go through a lot of makeup every day. What we do is, what we did in the shooting plan, we always started with the kids, and then the parents would start playing like at noon or something, so they could arrive on the set at 8 a.m. and be ready at noon. The problem was when we shot the basement. That was a full week. That was not in the location of the house. That was actually in the middle of the city when we did like the actual basement. And in the basement, it's all them. It's all the parents the whole time. So for that week, they had to arrive on the set very early. They were the first one to arrive like 6 a.m. or even before, like pre-calls. And they were the last to leave, so they slept very little. But I think this is a movie that was achieved through a lot of sweat and hard work of a lot of people, including them, who really delivered those great physical performances and also slept very little.
Yeah, they're awesome in it. Honestly, I'd put them up there, with the great zombies like Bub, from Day of the Dead. And so, what was the thought process for the color in the movie? It's not black and white, which I know some people have said it's a black and white movie, but it's not. There's color in it. It's just muted, and then there's actually, some other color in the movie.
Well, you know what? It is something that has been very criticized by some and also praised by some. The idea was to use the color also to tell the story and to create the vibe and the atmosphere. Of course, having the saturated look in a dystopian movie is not something I invented. It has been done many times before. But actually, the movie that was a big reference for this for me was not even a dystopia or a genre movie. It's a 2022 movie that came out in Apple TV Plus called Emancipation with Will Smith by Anton Fuqua, the movie about the slaves escaping. And when I saw that movie, I loved how it wasn't black and white, but it was really desaturated, and it really gave you this bleak look. And I told my DP, you need to watch this. And we decided to go with this world that has no color, which, by the way, is not the same, because some people have asked me why you didn't do black and white. And I think black and white is not so interesting for me. I mean, it's first of all, puts the movie on another step, commercially speaking. And not everyone can be Robert Eggers and do, The Lighthouse, black and white. But also, I think it's way more interesting a world with no color than black and white, which is not the same. A world with no color is where the colors are there. You feel, you can see the green, you can see the red, but the colors are mostly muted. And it's because, this is a world with no hope, a world with no joy, a world with no cheerfulness, therefore a world with no color. But then all the hope lies in the past. And that's why the drawings that the kids make, or the film that they watch on TV, or the books that they read at bedtime, or the photo that they see, it's in full color. And even in the end of the movie, I don't know what happened with this hand, but in the end of the movie, when they live in the house and they see the Christmas photo, it's in full color. And it's kind of like a metaphor, not only in this context of, the dystopia and how we miss the real world, but also in our daily lives. Don't you always remember last year you were happier, or 2 years ago this happened? Because you always look at the past through this lens where it seems happier. I like this Letterboxd review that came out when the movie just premiered. It was just a 3-word review and said, "Memories are brighter." And yeah, that's the movie. He got the movie. But then we also did some things on set, like we shot the whole movie on anamorphic lenses, which is why you get this idea that the surroundings are a little blurry, and it makes you feel like it's more like a world created by kids. And then we also used the Black Promise filter, which really heightens the highlights, so it really feels like we are in a world made by kids. And then in post, we did all this sad look, which I really like. It's been it's very criticized, and even commercially, a lot of distributors have been asking, "Hey, let's make another version with more color." But I always say, this is the movie, and this is part of the vision and part of the atmosphere of the movie. It's not black and white. It's just a world with less color, because it's a world with no hope. it's very obvious for me, but it's still a way to use color to tell the story.
Mm-hmm. There's a big horror, well, not just horror, but a big movie Taboo at the beginning of Parvulos. I'll just say, it's an animal killed. Did anyone try to have you remove that from the movie? Because even horror fans, there's websites dedicated to like don't kill the dog or don't kill the cat, whatever it's called. And so did anyone be like, oh, you should maybe not have this in the movie?
Well, you know what? Yes, a lot of people told me that even from the script process. Yeah. And so people told me, Isaac, why don't they kill like a squirrel or like a dog or whatever other animal? But, I love dogs, by the way. I have a dog and I'm a big dog lover. And I know a lot of people are going to check out of the movie when they see that. But so two things. First of all, this is a movie with a very long first act, right? It takes a while to get into the genre aspects of the story. It takes a while to reveal what's really happening in the basement. So I like to cheat, or even to manipulate, but in a way that I'm also being very formal with the structure and with the rules. So if I'm going to make the audience sit to almost half an hour of first act to discover what's really happening, I want to show them the first 5 minutes that this movie is bloody, brutal. It's a horror movie. It's a dystopia. These kids are insane. These kids are desperate. And what other way than killing a dog? So that's why I didn't want to remove that, because they had to kill a dog in the first minutes. So this movie is going to be crazy. And then you have to sit for another 25 minutes to see why. It's like a way to level those two things. And the other thing is once they kill a dog, everyone's going to be pissed in the audience. But later on in the movie, you understand why they did it. And you understand they did it to save their family, to save their parents. And later on, they're going to kill even something bigger, right? So I feel then the sacrifice, you kind of see it was worth it, because it's to save the parents. And if they would kill a squirrel or an animal who's not man's best friend, you wouldn't feel a sacrifice at all. Yeah. So I wanted you to feel that these kids really have to make hard choices. That's why I made the hard choice of leaving the dog like that.
Mm-hmm. Who did the kids' drawings? Because sometimes I see in movies where they have drawings that like a kid supposedly made, and they're either too far advanced or they're like too other way. They just look like crap or something. But these look genuine, like something that a kid would draw.
Well, yes, the kids' drawings, they were made by the props department. Marisol, who was a prop master, she's great, and she did. This movie had a big challenge in the props, because all the things that the kids put and the helmets and all that was all props.
Yeah, I'll say even in the house, like it seems really lived in. Like there's just stuff everywhere.
Yes, the production design department really killed it, and the drawings. You know what? Some of these drawings are mentioned in the scripts, but actually not a lot of them. Like only some of them, and even the props department had like assistant. They had like 8 people just sitting in the living room, just making drawings every day. And when I looked at that, I was like, "Oh, these are amazing! They need to be in the credits." Because I love them. When I saw that, I said this needs to be this needs to have like a proper like a proper moment where we actually see them. And that's why I decided to make the credits, and that's actually my favorite credit sequence I've ever done in a movie of mine. But they were done by Marisol, who's a great and what's interesting is they look like they were made by kids. Like they really they have that sense. And for me, the essence of this film is the contrast of the beauty and brutality. I remember when I first saw Pan's Labyrinth, I must have been I was a film student at the time. I must have been 20 years old. And I was so shocked by how that was almost like a children's movie with, princesses and fairies and creatures. And then you have this bad guy who grabs a gun and basically breaks this peasant's face in a gore scene that looks almost like an Asian movie. And I was like, are you allowed to do that? Like a kid's movie, a lot of blood in it. And then I saw some interviews where Del Toro kept talking about what he wanted to do was the contrast of the beauty and the brutality. And that really stayed with me. And I think it's something I've tried to put in all my work so far. But I think Parvulos is the movie that that embodies that the most. And yes, it was all about this film is very tender, very sweet, even corny, and then it's completely brutal and bleak at other points, right? And I feel the drawings express that very well, because they express the essence of the movie, because they're like drawings made by kids, so they are very sweet and cute, but they have like a guy grabbing a heart or blood or guts, like drawn by kids. So I think that's very interesting, like almost like kids gore,
Yeah. It would, if a kid drew that today, they'd send them to like, oh, this person.
They send them to school, yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say hi to my friend Audrey, my French friend Audrey, who is trying to get better in English. So she's listening to this, and my friend Ariane, who is also listening to us right now, and everyone who's listening. I just want to say hi.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, see, Cappuccino Ramirez is in here. I'm not exactly sure what they said to Todd here. Cuando Kappa said that. I don't know what they're saying there, but I'm sure it's nice because I see Amigo in there. So, have your brothers seen the movie?
Yes, they saw it when I was just cutting a rough cut of the movie. They saw it, and they were very pleased to see I dedicated the movie to them. I told them, do you think people are going to believe our childhood was fucked up? And they were like, no, they were just going to feel like we had a very strong family bond growing up, But yeah, I mean, this is the first time I dedicate one of my movies to someone, and I'm glad I did to my brothers because I kept them a lot in my mind when I was shooting this.
And how the kids that played the brothers, did they get to see the movie? Like, because I don't know if they get to travel to any of the festivals, but did they get to see it like in the theater anywhere?
Yes, of course. The kids, they I mean, when we had our Mexican premiere was at the Morelia International Film Festival, which is the biggest festival in Mexico and one of the biggest in Latam and the world. And we had a big red carpet there and a big screening in a almost 400 seats theater. All the kids were there, so it was fantastic to have them seeing it on the big screen and then come out to the Q&As and all that. Then we had our red carpet premiere in Mexico, so it's great they could see it. I don't think they traveled to the festivals international. I mean, they went to Morelia, but the thing with kids is it's always tricky in festivals. For example, Fantastic Fest, when I went with Evil Eye in 2022, Paola Miguel, the star of Evil Eye, she went to the festival. They didn't let her in because she was 14 years old, and Fantastic.
Like, I'm in this movie. Yeah.
So she came to see, like, she came to the festival, and they told her you cannot enter the venue. So she was just like, in downtown Austin doing tourist stuff, and then she could come to the movie. She came to the movie and to the Q&A at the movie. But I feel
she couldn't go see the other movies or anything.
Yeah, I feel with kids at festivals, festivals is always sometimes there's a vibe of like drinking and bars and all that. And they did come to Sitges. The cast of Evil Eye came to Sitges. That was great. But in this case, in Parvulos, yeah, they saw it in Morelia. They saw it in the premiere, and hopefully it's and I know they went to the movies many times to take friends of them and all that, and hopefully they feel proud of what they did, because they carry the whole movie.
How important are festivals for an independent filmmaker? Because I know you've been making feature films. You played festivals. I think that helps get your name out there. This is just my perspective, and then you build up to bigger things. So, in your own words, what's the benefits of going to festivals?
Well, I think going to festivals is hugely important. First of all, in terms of distribution, which is actually talking business and sales of the movie, a festival puts the movie in the frame, makes sure that the movie gets interviews and press coverage and reviews and all that. Interviews like what we're doing now. That's all done through festivals, so it's very important. And building a festival strategy where you begin in the biggest festival in each territory is important to showcase the movie for distributors in certain territories. And then on the other hand, for a director's career, that's where you make connections. The 5 movies I've made all happened because somebody I met at the festival, so it's hugely important to be there. And then also just there's no trip like the festival trip. It's like you watch 4 or 5 movies every day. You talk about all these movies with other people. You are at the bar, at the party, talking about tonight's movie, and everyone is talking about it, and everyone is a freak like you who loves movies. And then the next day, everyone is talking about your film, and the next day about another film. It's just the best trip there is. And then you get to travel the world, thanks to film festivals. I've been to South America, Canada, Spain, Korea, all Europe, US, places, Mexico. There's no trip like the festival trip. Yeah, definitely.
I agree 100%. And like I said, everyone's freaks, and everyone's on the same level. The filmmakers, if you're there's press, if you're there just to watch a movies, you're all film fans.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, I'm not, no one's looking down on anybody or anything like that. You're just there to watch movies.
Yeah, it's a great vibe. Yeah.
I do want to ask about some of the religious elements in the movie, like the angel numbers and the trumpeters, like the thought process, including that. And has that gotten any negative feedback depending on different countries you play at?
Well, a lot of people ask me about the religious elements in the film. I'm not a very religious person. I'm Jewish, and I follow the traditions, and I'm proud to be a Jew, but I don't follow like religion so closely. But the reason why I put that in the movie, I wanted to play with this idea that, in any great dystopia, in any great movie about the end of the world, in the third act, you discover that the real danger is not the infected or the aliens or the zombies. The real danger is the other humans in this world full of anarchy that has gone to shit, right? So I just wanted to do, I mean, I know it's a cliche. I know we've seen it in other dystopias as well. And you see it in the Last of Us or in The Walking Dead. But I wanted to, sometimes it's better to approach a good cliche properly than to try to avoid it and end up telling nothing, right? So I try to embrace that cliche fully, and that's why I created this sect, this cult, and I really wanted them to have all these lines and this mythology where, it's something that would happen if the world ends, that people grab from other stuff like religion, and somebody who was a nobody can become a leader or a president, or so I wanted to pick up on that in a contained way, because we only see 4 people in this sect. But yeah, that was the reason for that.
And also, I always think the idea, like, you can always fit what these numbers or whatever it is into your own, like, superstitions. Like, they take these certain numbers. Oh, these are the angel numbers that are foreseen and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. It's kind of like people who make predictions. Like, they're so vague, you can really kind of fit them in anywhere.
Yeah, totally. It's, you can always adapt when, especially in a place where the world is looking for so many, answers or explanations, like what happened in the pandemic. People start looking at those explanations elsewhere, and one of those things is religion, right? Yeah.
Let's see. VW says she's been looking forward to this movie. Well, it's out today, I believe. So
it's out today. Yeah. Let's see what you think. Yeah.
John Reddy, what made you decide to create a disabled character?
Well, I wanted to find that contrast of the guy who has to take care of them, who's who's like the authoritarian figure in the house, is a mastermind, but it's also somebody who is physically not able to be so strong as the other two. So there's a line when he says, a young kid, you with 2 legs and me, we are the same. So I wanted to give him the maturity and the age, but remove a leg so he's in the same way as his brothers.
Dave said he agreed with about Del Toro, and he said he'd be the perfect guy to do an It adaptation.
Wait, what was the question?
It's not really. Well, I guess there's a question. Do you think Del Toro would be a perfect person to do an adaptation of Stephen King?
Totally, I agree. Yeah.
Seems like they never get the second part really right. I think the second half of the end of it's very hard to film.
Would get it right. I'm sure of that. Yeah.
So, would you ever? What's next for you? And obviously, we want people to see the movie now. But what are you working on next? And would you ever do a sequel?
One sec. I'm going to shortly, but I'm going to answer this question. Yeah. Would I consider doing a sequel? More than a sequel, I believe this world could really be expanded for a TV show. Imagine a TV show where you would have one episode of the kids, having to go get water. One episode where a woman breaks into the house. So I feel like that's something that we should definitely try to see.
Yeah, and
And
you
then
could expand the cult, and yeah,
expand the mythology, yes, or even like a like a comic book, or like a way where the mythology could be expanded, maybe.
and not to give away the ending. It could go on from there, and there's a lot of questions from that.
Yeah, it's because family changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's for me the essence of the movie. There are only two constants in the world: family and change. And then the other thing, you asked what's next for me. Well, I have many projects in development now. One that I'm very excited about is something that hopefully happens next year. It's an adaptation of one of my favorite writers, somebody who I really admire. So I'm really, really hoping for
cool.
that. At the same time, I'm writing a horror movie that would be like a more proper classic horror movie. And at the same time, I have a science fiction movie that I'm working on. So whatever happens first. And, I always keep telling stories and trying to make my stories happen.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for this, Neil. This has been great.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. Not just here. I love Parvulos. I cannot say this properly. I can say it in my head, but it's not coming out right. I thought the movie was awesome. It's going to be on my top movies of the year. And I've seen your movies through Buffalo Dreams Fantastic Film Festival over the years. And it's cool to see you progress as a filmmaker. I liked all your movies, and I do think this one is your best movie so far.
Oh, thank you so much, Neil. That's a big coming from you. Thank you for.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
So far.
So congratulations, and I'm going to tell people to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, just saying goodbye. I want to remind everyone that the film is out today in digital platforms all across the US, iTunes, Google, Amazon, whatever platform you use to buy or rent. You can watch it this weekend. You can grab your parents, tie them in chains, put them in the couch, and watch this movie. And
actually, I suggested it to my mom. My mom's a big horror movie fan. So.
Oh, of course she is. I mean, that's where it came from. I mean, make sure to spread the word, because this is going to be very important for the life of the film after this. So if you like the movie, write your review in Letterboxd or Twitter or IMDb or whatever.
Yeah, all that stuff is important, especially for independent films.
All that stuff is hugely important. And thank you, Neil, for this space and for promoting the film. I hope this time it got recorded.
It did, yeah, and it's live, so yeah, it's out
live.
There.
So, that's why you made it live, so you cannot lose it this time.
Exactly, yeah, it's all good. So, yeah, this is great. Next movie, I'd love to have you back on. So.
Thank you. Sure, we'll just keep in touch. Next movie, I'll love to be back. Yeah, thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that was great, Isaac Ezban. So the backstory is there. We actually recorded an interview for, I believe it was Fantastic Film Fest. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. It was not me. It was not Isaac. It was the people who set up the interview. They didn't record it. And so it was not saved. And then we were going to redo it. And as things happen, I was involved in the movie. Anyway, it just didn't happen. But through my friends, Michael Past at Raven Banner, he's like, we're putting out Parvulos, Children of the Apocalypse. Would you like to have Isaac Ezban in? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So so that worked out. So we're gonna have some more guests coming up from Raven Banner. They put out like really great stuff. The thing about a company like Raven Banner, now there's some companies out there, not to name any names, but they'll put out like hundreds of movies. And I'm not saying they're all not great, because you'll find some good ones there, but that they're just really putting out quantity. And so you got to kind of sift through them. Raven Banner, maybe there's going to be some you don't like, but they really pick and choose what they put out. And so, if they're putting something out, it's either really high quality. And even if it's not for you, it's high quality. So Raven Banner puts out really cool stuff. Parvulos, I loved it. We also soon will be having Marcel Waltz will be on the show. He's got 2 movies coming out from Raven Banner, Brute 1976, and another movie that looks really cool. But Marcel is a good director. He's been on the show a couple times, I believe. And some other people coming up. from Raven Banner, but I don't want to mention them because who knows? Maybe they don't happen. Not because of Raven Banner, but you never know. But we will be back tomorrow night. Yeah, you can't get away from Nasty Neal here. But tomorrow, the whole gang will be here. Me, Terrible Troy, cousin AJ Cutler, and Tara Hutchinson of New Village Video. We will all be here. It'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to that. I look forward to it every week. So Thursday is the main show. Not that any one is less important than these other shows, but Thursday is when all the hosts will be here. So we'll start with the interview, and then after the interview, we're going to show some trailers that folks send in. So you can send in trailers every week, and we'll give you our honest opinion of them when we play them. Now I say that, and it seems like I'm going to like rip on them or something, but the odds are we're all nice people except for AJ. He's kind of mean. And so we're probably all gonna say good things, but in his defense, he has really bad taste. So even if it's a bad trailer, he'll probably like it. But tomorrow night, Morgan Milam will be here. Morgan Thompson Milam from all kinds of horror films. She's in Debbie Does Demons. She's in just tons of stuff, and she's going to be in Your Blade is My Salvation, or My Blade is Your Salvation. And this movie is killing it right now on the Indiegogo. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. We're going to give out some prizes on the Thursday show. We give out prizes. We're also going to open up the video line. So after the interview, if you'd like to chime in with a question or a topic in the horror world, you can do so. And tomorrow night, let me show you right now, we're going to give out a collection of stickers, horror movie stickers. Let me grab these right now. We're going to give out some prizes every week. I think it's fun. Who wouldn't think prizes are fun? Some asshole maybe. So let's see here. Let me grab these collection of stickers for tomorrow. Tomorrow night sticker collection will be. You will be receiving a Without Your Head sticker. Boom. Old school logo. Well, not really old school. It was mid school. This was our logo from 2019 to 21, I think. You'll be getting this. What is this? Oh, this is that's a Jason X sticker, I believe. It's like Jason's head. No, I think it's Jason and Freddy with I don't know what the hell's going on there, but it's cool. We got a Friday the 13th sticker. We got a Ghostface sticker, his Ghostface mugshot sticker. We got a Chucky sticker. And look at this. We've got Leatherface Freddy, Michael Myers, Ghostface Jason, and Chucky riding the Mystery Machine. So you'll get that whole collection of stickers. And what you do is you come and join the live show, interact with us in the chat room, and we will pick a random person out of the top 3 chatters. Yeah. So you gotta compete for our love and prizes. That's how it works. But anyway, this movie is great. I highly recommend it. I recorded a couple of interviews earlier today, and all the movies were excellent. I'll talk about them tomorrow night. Probably the biggest surprise was the death of Snow White. Now, some of my friends are anti these the Pooverse or they're against the fairy tale horror movies. These movies that the characters are now public domain, so they make the horror movie version. I am pro this idea, but they have to be good. So I saw the Pooh movies. It's not good. Let's be honest. I did not see the sequel. There's been some other ones, even some that I enjoyed. They're like what I would call parody films. But The Death of Snow White is a genuine horror movie. It's got a lot of blood. It's got a lot of gore. It's got dismemberments. It's got beheadings. But it also really sticks to the source material. It is a true horror retelling of the Snow White story. And that's not a parody of Snow White. Snow White is the actual Snow White character. She's not a killer or whatever. She is Snow White. The seven dwarves are the seven dwarves. I will say the description makes it seem different. They said they're psychopathic murderers, and that's not really accurate. I'm not sure why it says that in the description. So the heroes are the heroes, and the villain is the evil queen, and she is fantastic in the movie as both the evil queen and then her counterpart, the hag, who's played by a different actor, by the way. Both are great. The mirror element in the movie is done really well. There's some monsters. Anyway, this movie I loved. It's I will say it's maybe a little too long. It's almost 2 hours. That's probably the only negative. Kind of like Isaac was talking about. It's kind of a fantasy movie, so it feels like a kid's not a kid's movie, but like a kid could watch it, but it's super dark and gory, so they probably shouldn't watch it unless you're a kid like me. When I was a kid, I would have had no problem watching it. So anyway, I really like this movie quite a bit, The Death of Snow White. So Death of Snow, these are very different movies, but I would really recommend The Death of Snow White, which comes out the beginning of July, and Parvulos, Children of the Apocalypse, which is out right now from Raven Banner. All right. Pooverse sounds like the current state of Marvel movies. A lot of people love that recent Marvel movie. I thought it was shite. The Gladiators or the Predators or the we're not the Avengers. Who were they? They were just, it's like they're trying to make the new Avengers, or like, let's make the new Avengers, but make them all really uninteresting and unlikable. Like the only one of them's likable, the guy from Stranger Things, Red Guardian. The rest of them, like, who gives a shit about these people? But people like that one. I thought it was horrendous. I actually liked the new Captain America, which most people hated. And I liked Ant-Man 3 quite a bit, and that was universally hated. But most of the other ones I have thought were bad. Plus, it's like you have to understand. I don't watch any of the Marvel shows. I used to really like the Daredevil and stuff like that, but I don't watch these current ones. So I'm watching the new movies, and I'm like, what is happening? And it's like you have to have seen like you have to have seen like 28 episodes of TV, probably more than that, like probably 50, like 5 different shows every season. No, and counting the movies, it used to be, it's like, okay, so going to the Avengers, I've seen the Hulk, I've seen Captain America, I've seen Iron Man, I've seen Thor. All right, that's doable. You've seen these bunch of movies now together. Then as time progresses, it's like, well, I've seen the Black Panther, I've seen Black Widow, then after a while, it's like, I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. After a while, it's like, if you try to get it now, it's like, before you watch this next Avengers, it's not like you have to watch Avengers 1 and 2. It's like you have to go back and watch 35 movies and 5 series. Some are 3 seasons and 12 episodes. It's like you have to go and watch, 500 hours of content before you go see the next movie. It's like, what the hell? It's too unwieldy. Too unwieldy is what I say. But we're not here to talk about Marvel movies. We're here to talk about horror films. But I'm going to take off. We'll be back tomorrow night. So don't forget, Morgan Thompson Milan will be here. That'll be a really fun interview where we talk about all her horror movies, Triple Xmas, Debbie Does Demons, the upcoming Your Blade is My Salvation. We're going to talk about the horror world in general. We're going to be joined by Terrible Troy, AJ Cutler, Tara Hutchinson. We're going to watch trailers together. We're going to have live video call-ins. So come be part of the chat, interact with us, and then after the interview, you can jump on if you want. If you don't want, you can stay in the chat and interact with us there. It'll be a good time. All right, we're going to be taking off here, folks. Noga Chaser is here. Durr! Boom. Thanks, Neil. Well, thank you, Vagina Wrinkle. So, yeah, tomorrow night we'll be back. We got some prizes here, some stickers. Without Your Head, old school sticker. We also have these. These are not free, though. These are the official patch of my upcoming feature film, Arbor Day. These are the I Ain't Afraid of No Trees patches. So if you super chat $12 or more, I will send you one of these. They're fully embroidered, 4-color. I Ain't Afraid of No Trees patch of money will actually go into pre-production of Arbor Day, which will be launching the campaign very soon. They're self-adhesive, so you could put them on a hat, a shirt, I don't know, your car, your forehead. I would recommend if you put them on something like a jacket or something to also sew them on so they're a little more sturdy. But they will stick on stuff. Or you can just keep it as a keepsake. I'm Afraid of No Trees, and they will actually be in the movie. That's right, Steve, and some of the characters will be wearing these at a certain part in the film. All right. I've never trusted trees. I've heard that about you, Mr. Deadman. Dave Deadman. It's cute. It is cute. She meant the patch or she mean me? I don't know. Both pretty cute, I guess. For my Dabbleverse friends here, rest in peace to Ski Mask. I didn't know that. I've never actually talked to Ski Mask, but 30 years old is far too young to die. So rest in peace to Ski Mask. All right. So we'll be back next week. Or not next week. We'll be back next week too, but we'll be back tomorrow night. It'll be a good time. And then Saturday, I'm doing another show. So what you got to do is you hit the like button, of course, and then you subscribe. You hit that little bell icon, your notification every time we're live. And if you want to become a member, it costs only starts at $3 a month. Help support the channel. You can even become a producer for $10 a month, and you will get IMDb credit. I don't think anyone else offers that. So you can get IMDb credit for as a producer of the Without Your Head podcast. That's pretty sweet. Help us spread the head, share this out. Be a good time. I'm going to start doing more live streaming. I enjoy it. We get a lot of people asking to come on the show. So let's do it up. All right. We're going to play us out with The Tomb of Nick Cage. This is not an AI song. This is created by an actual band. It was written by an actual person. It was sung by an actual person. And the music is performed by real living people. So here we go. This is the original song, Without Your Head theme by The Tomb of Nick Cage. And you don't take my word for it. You can look them up. They actually exist. They're out there in the world. They've been on the show. All right, here we go.